What do you believe about marriage? What do you think the purpose of marriage is? Are you married and things seem to be going sour? Are you frustrated that marriage is more challenging than you thought it would be? Are you surprised to find out that it's not the fairy tale that most television shows show you that it is? Have we gone so far in society from traditional marriage that you're under this idea or belief that it's just better to, be a throuple? I think that's what they call a throuple. Or why bother to get married? Or this is the best that it gets, so I'll just kind of put up with it. What do you really believe about marriage? Are you even interested in marriage? Are you married and you wish you wouldn't have gotten married? Are you surrounded by people who only talk about marriage in a negative light? Do you believe that because things are hard or tough or struggling in your marriage that you married the wrong person? Are you under this belief that if you were married to the right person, it wouldn't be this hard? All of these are just like false thoughts and beliefs that most of us grew up hearing or believing about marriage. Many times the concept of marriage, instead of it being based on biblical principles, it's been based on the things we've seen on television, the fairy tales that we see in movies, and just the hope that, somebody can make my life better because I've been doing a really bad job at it. And for some of us, we've even, entered into this marriage thing because maybe we didn't think that God could give us this happiness, this peace, this joy that other people talk about, and that maybe it's in another person. Like there's a saying that women get married and try thinking they can change their husband, and husbands get married hoping their wife never change. To me, both those statements only have the ability to lead to disappointment. Because one thing that is certain is that we are all created to change. When a thing doesn't change or grow, it typically is dying or it dies. And even in the death transition, right, there's still change. So this notion that you don't want your person to change or you think you can change a person, where did that thought come from? Where does that belief get rooted? Like, I don't even say what does it get rooted in? What is it rooted in? So one of the things I teach in the program is this concept that there are only two true emotions, the emotion of love and the emotion of fear. And everything else is an expression of either love or fear. So I want to ask you, are your thoughts and beliefs about marriage rooted in fear or is it rooted in love? And you may be thinking, well, of course it's rooted in love, but is it? Because true love, and we go biblical principle says that it is patient, it's kind, it's long suffering, that it is gentle, that like love is not this just an expression, it's not just a feeling, but it's actions, it's commitment, it's doing the hard thing. That's what love really is. And here's the thing about Bible and God. God is always interested in our growth and our change and stretching us to be something different than we are. I like to think about when he took the people out of slavery, when he took the Israelites out of slavery. They have been a people who have been captured for most of their lives. Now, mind you, prior to the generation that was slaves, yes, we had Joseph who led the people and they lived amongst in Egypt free with freedom. But once they begin, when after Joseph died and they began this abundance of them, the Egyptians said, okay, the Pharaoh was like, we need to stop this. We need to put these people in bondage. So here was God inviting them to come out of bondage into a new thing, into a new way. And the thing about marriage, right? Marriage invites us into a new way of thinking, a new way of being, a new way of enjoying life. The problem is just like when the people in Israel, the Israelites was in bondage, they knew what that was. They knew how to do life as a slave. But now here's God asking them to do life as free men, to be free thinkers, to depend on Him instead of depending on the system that they have been in. And so that transition is always challenging. And so many of us, we get married and we're surprised by the transition because we want it to stay the way it was. You know, we want it to stay I call it like the pink butterflies and the rainbows where everything seems to be good all the time. But that isn't life, and that's certainly not marriage. And so much like the Israelites, when the hard comes, the transition comes, what do? We look back at when we were single and we think about, well, it would be easier when I was single. I could do bad by myself. I remember saying that early in my marriage. I could do bad by myself. But do you want to? Do you want to do bad by yourself? Or do you want to learn to do well with your partner? And that's what Think Your Way to a Better Marriage is. It is a program that will equip you to do well with your partner if you're willing to sign up for it, if you're willing to show up for yourself and to show up for your marriage, if you're willing to allow yourself to believe that God is calling you to something higher, that your happiness, yes, is a part of the journey, but it's not all of the journey. And it's certainly not the most important part of the journey. Imagine on the other side of 6 weeks, just 6 weeks. That's the weekend before Christmas. Imagine, I want you to think about this. Imagine that right now, whatever your marriage is, maybe you're not extremely happy in your marriage. Maybe you feel like you can't communicate with your spouse. Maybe if it feels like he doesn't hear you or she doesn't see you, she doesn't value you. Maybe you feel disrespected. Maybe you feel frustrated because in your heart and your mind, you think you've done everything you can do and you don't quite get why they don't appreciate you. Imagine just 6 weeks from now, the weekend before Christmas, December 22nd, your spouse gets you and you get your spouse. Imagine you're holding hands and you're touching and you're cuddling and you're doing all the things that you used to do before you got married again. Imagine just in 6 weeks, one day, you hang out with us and you learn these tools and strategies. In just that short time, your whole marriage begins to shift, change, and transition. Imagine that happening. And I can tell you, you don't have to just imagine it, you can have the experience. So I was listening to some of the testimonials this morning, and one gentleman said, I've learned to listen to my wife more. I now understand what she needs. Imagine that. Imagine being married for, I think this couple been married for 7, 8 years. This isn't these aren't 20-year-olds, right? But he's finally hearing and listening to his wife differently. Imagine being the wife that had been on reserve and so busy protecting ourselves, because we all do that she's not as affectionate. And imagine now, just 6 weeks later, they say, now we greet each other every day with hugs and kisses. And when we almost slipped back into our old ways, we was quick to change it back because we know this work has changed our marriage. Imagine that you get to have that conversation. Like, I've really been listening to these couples share their testimony and the transition that has happened in their marriage in such a short time. And I'm hearing things like, I'm enjoying my spouse again. Wow, like I realized I was holding my husband hostage to pain that he didn't cause. Wow. I realized that my wife had needs and I didn't recognize that's what that was. A gentleman said, I learned that I have these needs that I didn't know how to communicate. Another guy said, thank you that I've got the language now to know how to express my feelings, all in 6 weeks. Listen, at some point, there's going to have to be a decision made. You can decide to stay in a marriage that is full of frustration, bitter, just getting by. Like, I've seen those kind of marriages. They make me feel sad, extremely sad inside, right? Because it's this tolerating one another just for the sake of, well, we married, so, and we've been married for all these years, so I guess this is just what it is. It doesn't have to be this way. We serve a God that says, I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Do you think God didn't mean that about your marriage? He wants your marriage to be an expression of abundance and joy and laughter and peace and fun. That is the marriage that God wants us to have. But just like the Israelites, there's a transition that has to happen. There's a mindset shift that has to happen. And all I'm telling you is if you just show up and do the work, the transition can happen for your marriage too. Listen, I cannot beat you over the head. I cannot make you sign up for the program. I cannot make you invest in your marriage. But here's the thing. We're in that season where everybody's looking at Black Friday and everybody's excited to go spend their money to shop for Christmas. I want to ask you, what thing did you get last year for Christmas? Did it benefit your life? Do you remember what it is? Like many of us, we get so many things for Christmas that we look back and we're like, oh, I don't even remember what I got last year. If I really have to think about it, I don't even know where it is. I don't even know what the thing is that I got. I don't know where it is. And maybe it was a new bag or a new pair of shoes and you spent extra money on some game for your kids. Where is it today? Has it really affected or changed your life in a good, positive way? So you don't hesitate to spend hundreds of dollars, some people thousands of dollars on a Michael Kors bag or Gucci or all these names. I don't know because I don't put my money in bags. But you don't hesitate to do that. You don't hesitate to get your red bottom shoes or to pay for the luxury car so people can perceive that you have an amazing life. You don't hesitate to invest in that. But you're hesitating to invest in a program that you don't have to have a perception of a happy marriage. You can actually have a happy marriage. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that people don't see the value in personal development. It breaks my heart that people don't see the value in, listen, if I just spend this money today, I'm going to be able to talk about the life-changing thing that happened to me for the rest of my life. That breaks my heart. And there's nothing I can do but write the program, be obedient to God, show up and teach it. And if you show up, I promise you. In fact, I'm bold enough to say, if you show up, if you pay for the program and you show up every class and do your work, if your marriage doesn't change, I give you money back. That's how bold I am about this program. Not because it's Kenesha, but because God, He wrote this program through me. Like He gave me the vision for this program. I know when I hear people say they're having problems in their marriage, my mind I can hear differently, right? I'm like, oh, I know what that is. But I don't dare tell a person who's not in the program what it is because, one, if you haven't invested in being in the program, if you haven't said, Kenesha, I want you to coach me, I know what I say you can't even hear. Because when you don't believe something, it doesn't matter what a person says. Your mind is locked into what you believe. And so until you decide, I need a new belief, you can't even always receive a new belief. Anyway, I pray that you have an amazing day. I pray that you are good to yourself today so that you can be good to others. And I pray that you decide that you're worth the investment. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.